Welcome back, everyone. My name is Jason. Again, I'm the president and CEO of Behind Bars Blueprint, an organization designed to help individuals and their families navigate the incarceration process from beginning to end and even beyond. Today, we're going to talk about reentry and more so what they don't tell you about reentry. Now, I'm not implying that things are purposely kept from you necessarily, but I am telling you that there's a lot more to reentry than meets the eye. There's a lot of things that people don't think about, and a lot of times it's not taught. It's very, very important and some things you might miss. So let's get started. So most of the time when people are talking about reentry, it's, second chances this, fresh start that, and that's all good. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot more to it than that. Yes, you're getting a second chance. Yes, it can be a fresh start, but only if you are armed with the information and the knowledge you need to do it successfully. And a lot of times, it's not the things that you're aware of that'll trip you up. It's the things that you're not. I took boxing for several years, and the one thing that my boxing coach always reiterated to me, he said, it will always be the punch that you didn't see that will get you, okay? And I can tell you from experience, that's true. So when we're talking about reentry, it has to go beyond just the second chances part and the fresh start, and there's much more to it than that, and that's what we're going to cover today, so listen close. Truth number one is you feel like everyone is staring at you. It's probably no secret at this point that I'm talking from personal experience when I do a lot of these videos. And so a lot of these are either going to be my personal lived experience, or they're going to be experiences that I've talked with other guys that are in the program right now, guys that I was in prison with, across the board. But they're all very, very similar, but we all deal with things in our own way. But this particular one, truth number one, is a lot of times you're going to feel like everyone is staring at you, and they're simply not. It's, I don't care how confident you are, when you first come home, you just, for some reason, you feel like all eyes are on you. I can remember being home for about 2 months, and I was in Walmart with my dad. And I was just sitting on the bench waiting for him to get done, and he comes over and he sits down next to me, and he looks at me and he says, "Stop it." And I looked at him and said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Relax." He said, "No one's looking at you. No one cares." Now, remember, I hadn't said a thing. He said, "Nobody cares. People are too wrapped up in their own lives. They're too wrapped up in their own problems and their everyday stuff." He said, "No one's looking at you." And for some reason, that was like, wow, that's incredibly simple and something I completely missed. And that's something that you have to keep in mind is it's normal to feel like everyone is looking at you. But the reality of it is they're just simply not. Everyone has their own stuff that they're contending with, and you're probably the least of their worries. Truth number two, and this one is extremely important. I experienced this myself. You have to remember that when you come home, your family has a routine that you are not a part of. Your family had to create an entirely new routine when you left in your absence. And that's normal, that's necessary. It's needed for survival. It's needed for any type of normality to continue on in your family. But you have to remember that when you're coming back in, you may remember things being a certain way. They don't. They've had to establish an entirely new world, an entirely new system that did not include you being physically present in that environment. And that takes some adjustment. That's one of those things where, to be quite honest, after about 6 months of being home, I had to have a conversation with my wife, and I had to sit down and say, "Hey, look, we were both Christians, so we believe in the biblical structure of a family. We believe that the husband is the head of the home. That doesn't mean that you run with an iron fist and you rule with no mercy. That's not what that means, and that's a whole other topic we can get into someday. But the husband is the head of the house. That doesn't mean that my wife doesn't have a say. Quite the opposite. But it was very clear that there was just this not relinquishing an equal partnership. There was not this, hey, we're going to work on this together. This was still, I'm used to doing things my way, and now I have to entertain the fact that maybe I need to listen to your way. Maybe your way might be better. Maybe it's not, and maybe I need to have a conversation with you about that. But it got to a point where there was some tension, and it was starting to rise. And that's something that you have to keep in mind is that, again, they don't tell you that is when you come home, there's going to be an adjustment period, and there's no set date or time on that. What will help tremendously is if you communicate with your significant other, whether that's your girlfriend, your fiance, your spouse, whatever it may be. Maybe you move back in with your parents, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. Communication is key. And you have to, I'll tell you one thing that'll really help. You have to go into this saying, okay, look, we are going to encounter things that we know nothing about, that we're not prepared for because we've not walked this road before, or maybe we've walked this road a dozen times, but we've never contended with this. We have to be prepared that when something pops up, we say, this is one of those things that we didn't know about, but we knew that was coming. Truth number 3, a lot of times your old life is going to try to pull you back. That could be friends, that could be friends, that could be old habits, old mindsets. They don't disappear. As a matter of fact, sometimes when you get back into areas that you're familiar with, they actually get stirred up. They get kicked back up. You'll have moments where the pull feels very familiar, and it's one of those things where you may not even notice it, but it's because now you're back in this environment. The brain remembers, or at least remembers parts of this, and you have to protect your progress in this area. Your future is much bigger than your past if you let it. Again, one thing that we like to say a lot of times at Behind Bars Blueprint is there's a reason that your windshield is bigger than your rear view mirror. Okay, be very careful about letting your past pull you back in. Your old life pull you back in. Now, if you've got some good things that were going on, some good relationships, some good friendships and things like that, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the things that you and I both know don't need to pull you back. Truth number 4, this one may sound a little weird, but freedom can be overwhelming, especially if you've done a lot of time. If you've been in for a long time, your freedom can feel absolutely overwhelming. We would see guys that had done a lot of time get released, and 6 months later, they'd be back in prison. And a lot of the times it was because the freedom is overwhelming. Inside everything is structured. You basically don't have any say of what's going on. You eat when you're told, you go to class when you're told, you go to bed when you're told. Everything is structured, and like it or not, the human mind has to adapt, and it will. The human mind is an incredible piece of machinery. It will adapt almost any situation. The issue is then when you come out, the mind has a hard time making that transition. Again, one of the things that we tell a lot of the people in the program is the biggest mistakes you can make oftentimes are thinking like you're outside when you're in and thinking like you're inside when you're out. Having said that, it takes time. You're going to take time to have to be able to adjust. And the way you do that is you need to build a routine. Build a daily routine. And this isn't something to where, okay, I'm going to build this routine until I become acclimated to my freedom or acclimated to not being in prison anymore. Daily routines, and we teach this again in Behind Bars Blueprint, are extremely important. Every successful person that you know, I guarantee you, has a routine. We have a daily routine and a morning routine specifically at Behind Bars Blueprint. You can modify this however you want, but it's in our books. I encourage you to check them out and look it up. We give you detailed plans and provide that routine for you. We show what we do, what we know that works, and what's worked for a lot of individuals. But if you want to incorporate parts of it into your daily routine, feel free. The important thing is have a routine. That's how you can maintain control of that overwhelming feeling that will try to creep itself up if you don't take control. Truth number 5, the last truth that we're going to talk about. And again, this one is critical and I think very crucial, and we teach this again in the program because people miss this concept and then confusion sets in, because a lot of times, and everybody, if you stop and think about this, everybody experiences this in some way, shape, or form. A lot of times, frustration is the result of failed expectations. We have some type of expectation about how something should go, or how some event should work out, or how things in the world should play out. And when they don't do that, we get frustrated. So truth number 5 is reentry takes longer than anyone tells you or that you may think. Reentry isn't, oh, I've come home. Today is day 1. I have come home. You haven't re-entered yet. Physically, you have relocated, but you have not re-entered. And I'll explain that. And I think you probably understand what I'm saying by this, but it takes a long time to actually re-enter into society. And it should be a slow, steady, measured process where you're not trying to get it all done in one day. Give yourself grace, give other people grace that, hey, I've got to relearn a lot of things. And again, depending on how long you've been locked up, that time frame is typically going to increase. So you have to be patient with yourself and you have to be patient with others. And there's nothing wrong with asking the people around you and in your circle and in your life, hey, just be patient with me. There's a lot of things that I have to unlearn. I have to realize that things that I needed to do in prison and the way I needed to function there don't work out here. Give me time. And that's what I mean is re-entry is going to take you a lot longer than what you might think. Just because you're released doesn't mean you're necessarily completely reintegrated. And that'll do it, everybody. 5 truths about reentry that nobody tells you that you absolutely need to know if you're going to be successful. We have all of this laid out in our program. And again, our program is continuous. It does not leave you. It does not drop you off. Wherever you are at in this process, Behind Bars Blueprint is there to help you along. We go over all of this in much, much more detail. We have online sessions as well. We have times where we get together, we talk, we get on, the webcam, and we just bounce things off of each other. But I would highly recommend you start with the books. Go to the website, behindbarsblueprint.com, or you can find them on Amazon, and get the book that you think meets you where you're at. Or if you're a loved one of an incarcerated individual, do the same thing. Send them the book that you think that would be the best for them. And again, you can go through all of those, guys. It's something that is going to be extremely critical to be able to figure out. And then when you get close to that time of coming home, that's where it's really going to start, really count. That's what's really going to start making a difference. Because if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Have a plan when you come out, and that's what this program does. That's what we're trying to do to help people. We don't want everybody to reinvent the wheel. We need to help each other, and that's what this is about. So check it out, everybody. We really hope this has been beneficial. I hope this is something that you can use or that your loved one can use. If you wouldn't mind, please give us a like, a subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It really helps the algorithm, helps us meet people where they're at. We want to be able to focus on topics that are going to help. So if you have a comment, if you have a suggestion, leave it in the comment section down below. You can also email me at behindbarsblueprint@gmail.com. So until next time, guys, make sure you're studying, make sure you're staying focused, make sure you have a plan, keep the faith, stay strong.